Faith Hedgepeth was born in North Carolina on September 26, 1992, to Roland and Connie. Months after she was born, her parents divorced and she lived with her mother and older sister Rolanda. She was an honors student in high school, a cheerleader, a member of many clubs and organizations, and even earned a scholarship to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. She planned to become a teacher or a pediatrician and would have been the first person in her family to graduate from college. Friends and family described her as a joy to be around, goofy, and someone who loved to laugh. In 2012, 19-year-old Faith was waitressing at a Red Robin in Durham and living with a roommate named Karina in an off-campus apartment named Hawthorne at the View. On September 6, Faith attended a Rush event for the campus chapter of Alpha Pi Omega, a historically Native American sorority that she was hoping to join. At 7:15 p.m., she left, saying she had to work on a paper she was writing about the history of her tribe. She and Karina went to the Davis Library to study together at 8 p.m. Between 8:30 and 9, she exchanged texts with her father about her hopes of joining the sorority that she had visited earlier. A couple hours later, the two went home before leaving again just after midnight. Security footage shows them arriving at the nightclub The Thrill in downtown Chapel Hill, which has since closed down. Karina told investigators she wasn't feeling well, so she and Faith decided to go home and were seen on security surveillance leaving the club at 2:06 a.m. By 3 a.m., the women were back at their apartment, and a neighbor who was up late watching TV that lived in the apartment below said she heard noises when the girls came in. She said it sounded like thumps, as if a heavy book bag was dropped or an end table being turned over. Around this time, records show that someone accessed Faith's Facebook page. Police said at 3:40 a.m., Faith sent a text to her ex-boyfriend Brandon. Interestingly, police say Karina's phone records show she was calling Brandon around the same time that Faith was texting him. However, when she did not get a response, she reached out to another boy. About 4:25 a.m., Karina left the apartment with a friend who came to pick her up, leaving Faith in her bed and the door unlocked. The next morning, Karina tried to call Faith for a ride home, but when she didn't answer, it left Karina to call another friend named Marisol. They arrived at the apartment at 11 a.m. and found a very shocking scene. Faith was dead, partially nude, wrapped in a comforter, and a significant amount of blood was all over the room. This is when Karina called 911. The autopsy revealed that Faith had died from blunt force trauma to the head and was beaten on her arms and legs and was sexually assaulted. A Bacardi rum bottle was found in her bedroom with tissue fragments and DNA on it, and this is what investigators believe was the murder weapon. Also found lying next to her body was a fast food bag with a handwritten note that read, "I'm not stupid, bitch, jealous." The DNA from the semen matched that on the pen used to write on the bag. A friend of Faith's received a voicemail from her phone with only background noise and talking among at least one male and two females. She deleted the message, believing it to be an accidental pocket dial, but when she heard that Faith had been murdered, she called the phone company and requested the voicemail be replaced and provided the audio to investigators. It is very difficult to understand what they are saying, but a forensic audio specialist analyzed the audio file. He reported that the voices sounded like cries for help from Faith while being attacked by a male and female with the same nickname of her roommate and her roommate's ex-boyfriend. But a problem with the voicemail arose when the timestamp was established as being 1:23 a.m., which initially makes you think the specialist is wrong because Faith was at the dance club at this time and there is video surveillance to back that up. However, the specialist provided a simple explanation to this contradicting timestamp. He said that at this time, iPhones were known to use the wrong time zone when placing a timestamp on voicemails. What I want to do next is play the 911 call placed by her roommate because some people strongly believe her reaction and tone are not legit, and I want to know what y'all think. In 2016, police released an image generated by Parabon Nanolabs of what the suspect who left the semen behind might look like based on the phenotype in his DNA profile. According to Parabon, the suspect was Native American and European mixed ancestry or Latino with olive skin, brown or hazel eyes, and black hair. Most of his genetic markers pointed to Mexican, Colombian, and Iberian ancestry, with some other South American and African countries making up the balance. According to earlier reports, more than one person of interest was questioned but were cleared when their DNA did not match the DNA found at the scene. One of the people cleared by DNA testing was a former boyfriend of Faith's roommate who had lived with them at one point. In early July 2012, he attempted more than once to break into the apartment even after Karina changed the locks. Faith eventually drove her to court to get a protective order that required him to stay away from the apartment. He reportedly resented Faith's influence over his former girlfriend, and at one point reportedly threatened to kill her if he could not get back together with Karina. Approximately 2,000 people were questioned, and the DNA of more than 100 people were tested. For many years, the DNA sat with no matches until it was sent to the state crime lab and a match was finally found. On September 16, 2021, 9 years and 9 days after the murder, police arrested Salguero-Olivares and he was charged with first-degree murder in the death of Faith Hedgepeth. Police would not give details on whether there was a relationship between Faith and Miguel because the case is still active, but confirmed he was not a person of interest at the beginning of the investigation. Miguel lived in Durham with his mom and previously lived in Chapel Hill in an apartment complex on Ephesus Church Road. He worked as a painter and moved to the U.S. from Guatemala in 2010, just 2 years before the murder. In 2014, he was convicted on a DWI charge and was arrested again in August 2021 on charges of driving while intoxicated and without a license or insurance. Jails in North Carolina often take DNA samples from people arrested and place those in a database to see if they match any pending cases, which is possibly how his DNA was matched in the database. He failed to appear in court on those charges on September 3, 2021, and an arrest warrant was issued. Police and prosecutors have declined to release many details about the investigation at this point, including whether they know if Miguel even knew Faith. But a private investigator reported that the two may have come in contact at a nearby club prior to the murder. Police have also not said whether there is a motive in the case or not. At the time of Faith's murder, Miguel would have been 19 years old. The private investigator that has worked on this case states that he believes more people could be charged in relation to her murder. With all the suspicious details in the case, that could be a real possibility.